Today, we're diving into one of the most chaotic periods in modern history. It's the story of how one man, Chiang Kai-shek, tried to forge a single nation from the absolute mayhem of a shattered China. So picture this. It's 1925. China isn't really one country. It's more like a patchwork of feuding territories. The land is torn apart by ambitious warlords, commanding, get this, 1.5 million armed men. It's a nation in pieces. But, in the middle of all that chaos, the dream of a unified republic was still alive. It was a dream inherited from the great revolutionary Sun Yat-sen, and the man who would pick up that torch was his chosen successor, Chiang Kai-shek. Right, so with Sun Yat-sen's death, there's this huge power vacuum. The future of China is literally hanging in the balance, and all eyes turn to the man tasked with making Sun's vision a reality. And the tool for this unification? It was the Kuomintang, or the KMT, the Nationalist Party. Their mission was, well, simple on paper, but massive in reality: crush the warlords and build a modern, unified Chinese republic. So who is this guy, Chiang Kai-shek? Well, at just 37 years old, he was the head of the KMT's prestigious military academy. He was known for being ambitious, ruthlessly efficient, and deeply, deeply suspicious of communism, a belief that would go on to shape the destiny of China. Now, to take down the warlords, Chiang needed allies. This led to the First United Front, an incredibly tense alliance between his nationalists and the brand-new Chinese Communist Party. Sure, they had a common enemy, but their ultimate goals, worlds apart. This was a partnership built on quicksand. With his power base solidifying, Chiang was ready to make his move. It was time to launch the ambitious military campaign that would decide not only his fate, but the fate of China itself. In 1926, Chiang unleashed the Northern Expedition. This wasn't just a series of battles. It was a grand crusade to march north, defeat the major warlords one by one, and bring the entire country under KMT control. And the speed of their success was just breathtaking. In just 2 years, the National Revolutionary Army swept through central China, capturing key cities and toppling major warlords. Their momentum seemed absolutely unstoppable. The campaign's success had this incredible snowball effect. As Chiang's army marched north, the defeated warlords' armies didn't just disappear. They often switched sides. His forces swelled from 100,000 to over 700,000 men, turning his army into a massive national force. But just as victory seemed within reach, the deep cracks in that united front were about to shatter completely. The most dramatic and brutal chapter of Chiang's rise was about to unfold on the streets of Shanghai. As the nationalists closed in on Shanghai, a crucial question was hanging in the air. Were the communists truly allies in a national struggle? Or were they rivals, just using the alliance to build their own strength, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? That moment came on April 12, 1927. This wasn't just another battle, it was a turning point, a brutal purge that would plunge China into decades of civil war. So what happened? Well, communist-led workers took control of Shanghai right before the KMT arrived. Chiang saw this as a threat, so he made a secret deal with the city's powerful crime syndicates. His troops, along with the gangsters, turned on their communist allies, hunting them down in the streets. The alliance was over. The scale of the betrayal was staggering. In Shanghai alone, an estimated 12,000 communists and sympathizers were killed or just disappeared. This event, the Shanghai Massacre, was the violent, bloody birth of the Chinese Civil War. So, with the warlords beaten and the communists on the run, Chiang established a new national government. But the unification of China was a lot more complicated and a lot more fragile than it looked. On paper, China was whole again. A new capital was set up in Nanjing, and Chiang Kai-shek was the country's undisputed leader. But this unity was really only skin deep. The KMT's actual control was limited, and all the old problems were festering just beneath the surface. And this really highlights a sharp contrast. In the cities, you saw progress. New industries, infrastructure, even laws promoting equality. But the countryside told a completely different story. A place where warlords still held sway, corruption was rampant, and the surviving communists were regrouping. And here's the crucial point. The KMT's modernization efforts were focused on the cities, but 85% of the population were peasants. They were largely ignored by the new government, living in deep poverty,
and becoming fertile ground for the communist message.
As a new threat emerged, an expansionist Japan that invaded Manchuria in 1931, Chiang made a fateful decision. His official policy was to prioritize wiping out the communists at home over confronting the foreign invaders. To him, the enemy within was the greater threat. This policy would push China to the brink, with the Japanese army advancing and the communists refusing to die. The pressure on Chiang would lead to one of the most bizarre and impactful events in modern Chinese history. So the 1930s were just one crisis after another. Japan set up a puppet state in Manchuria. Chiang's encirclement campaigns forced the communists on their legendary Long March. The nation was bleeding from the inside while a predator was circling at the gates. Tensions finally boiled over in late 1936. The desperation of the situation led to something almost unbelievable. One of Chiang's own top generals, Zhang Suilang, who'd lost his homeland of Manchuria to Japan, kidnapped him. His goal? To force Chiang to stop the civil war and unite with the communists to fight the Japanese invasion. And in an incredible twist, it worked. So after a decade of brutal civil war, betrayal, and massacres, the fate of China now rested on an alliance between two sides that despised each other, which leaves us with a critical question. Could this forced marriage of convenience possibly hold together long enough to save the nation from being swallowed whole?